Shut up and sit down.
Hi, welcome back to the Dial Podcast. We are going to talk about stuff today. That's right, glorious stuff. Now your hosts, Matt LeGrand, Evan Price, and Jake Von Duren. Enjoy the show.
Hey, welcome back to the Dial Podcast. I'm here with Evan Price and Matt LeGrand. Welcome back, guys.
How's it going?
Hey, what's up?
Not much. How was the weekend, fellas?
Pretty good. We had our first triathlon of the season, at least in the region. Beaver Freezer down at Corvallis. That was my first time in Corvallis. Super fun city.
Very cool. Very cool.
Was it cool? I've never been to Corvallis.
Yeah. It seemed like an interesting college town, you know?
Cool. We'll have to come back on that in just a minute. I'm going to be curious to hear some race results.
Oh, yeah.
A little birdie tells me that someone across the table from me did pretty well. Matt, how was your weekend?
Good. Kids' spring break, so we shot down to California and saw a little sun and made our way back up. It was actually a short trip, but good. So that's where I spent most of my time in the car.
Excellent.
Yep.
Yeah, got a chance to check out a couple little videos that you posted of your
Yeah.
trip down there. So fun stuff for sure. Good. Yeah, I had a chance to do a little bit of riding too. We had a race that was canceled on Saturday, so spent a little time on the trainer. Never a good time. And then on Sunday, got to follow that up with a little gravel grinder event. So that was quite fun as well. Moving forward, this is going to be a little segment we're going to call the Backpedal, where we're going to kind of get into in-depth the things that really came through this past weekend and the things that we had going on. And let's go ahead and kind of dive into that right now. Evan, tell us a little bit about this triathlon that you had to kick off the season.
This sprint triathlon to all of our cycling friends. I'll break it down here. It was a early season pool swim because it's probably still a little, what do you think, Matt? A little cold for open water right now?
You know,
Give it another week or two.
It just depends on if you want your participants to live through the race.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. So most of the races this time of year will typically be pool swim.
Yeah, we're way too soft to get in the open water right now. So it was a 500-yard pool swim. It was kind of an interesting start style. They started the race at 8 a.m. and we're doing it wave style. So there were a lot of waves leading up to the 10:30 a.m. wave, which was what they considered the fast wave, which was kind of fun. There was
500. That's short.
500 yards. Oh, I'll take a 500-yard swim any day. Yeah.
500. Did you get out and you were like, I don't even have to dry off?
It was
been swimming yet.
For me, I was like, great. There's a super swimmer out there and he's not that far away from me, so I don't have to worry too much. But I had to sprint to make up some time. But
how were your transitions?
Fast. I had to.
Did you run from when you came, like, I don't know, I've never done this race, but did you come out of the whatever pool auditorium, whatever it is, and then like into the cold air?
Yes.
Like,
yeah. And
you're completely wet and you're jumping on a bike. Is it cold?
Yeah. It was, we were lucky. It was mid 50s, but It was very windy. So the wind, I'll have an interesting little bit here about how the wind played quite a role. And this is where you see, if you're a strong cyclist in triathlon, you can make a massive gain here. So it was open to traffic. So the course was open to traffic.
Wow.
Which for me worked out great because there was this massive crosswind and I got to kind of sit tucked in arrow with this line of cars next to us in the bike lane, and I was completely comfortable. I could see the guys the guy I had to chase to catch was not comfortable with that. So I was able to make up time, passed him on a turn, and luckily was able to hold on the run just fine. So yeah.
So how was the run?
The run was a little hillier than I was expecting. It was a 3-loop course with the same hill over and over.
Okay.
And a third time. So
Love me some hills.
So that's kind of nice.
Any words exchanged with that gentleman when you passed him?
No, it was on the bike. I think I yelled something like
on your left.
Well, no, I actually was trying to, I thought it'd be cool if I told him like, hey, let's go for the course record. So I actually tried to say that, but I think it came out like, and then I just kept going. So
it's windy and
it was too windy and I was a little bit out of breath, but yeah, we were well we were about a minute off the course record, I think. So
3-lap run course with a hill in it.
Yep.
Yeah, and you were all on your own.
Yeah. Motivation was hard. As you know, when you're out by yourself,
Yeah.
motivation's tough.
How were the legs getting off the bike? Did they feel wobbly at all?
First race of the year,
First race of the year, yeah.
I wish I could sit here and say the legs felt awesome because I've been training for them to feel awesome. They didn't. It was jello coming off the bike. For all of our cycling friends, imagine when you get off the bike and my little quad soreness. Imagine them breaking into a sprint right after that. That's that feeling.
No thanks.
Yeah. Well, you've got some different issues going on, right? Because you've got like wet, cold, conditions, and then you're on the bike hard in the wind. So I imagine that there's just some numbness basically settling into extremities, and then you get off and the idea is to go hard, probably sub 6 minute pace, I'm sure. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So,
there's 17 by the end.
I don't know. Yeah. You actually might have felt better running towards the end of it. Right. So,
I felt comfortable going to that third mile. Those first 2 miles didn't. As Matt knows, like I trained for a 73 engine.
Yeah.
The difference between that 73 engine and a sprint race is just night and day.
Totally
I'm not even waking up into that run until mile 3. There's no way I can put down the pace of some of these guys who specialize at that distance do.
So in this race, how do they break the categories out, or is it just an open event?
So since it was a pool swim, what they had to do was they broke it into your guesstimated swim time. So if you were starting at 8 a.m., you were a slower swimmer. As it got closer to that 10:30 group, the 10:30 group was supposed to be the fastest swimmers, and just the what they were hoping would be the 9 or 10 guys who were going to be competing for the race. So
Okay, and it's just based on chip time, and then they just kind of sort it all out when it's all done.
yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah.
Very cool. How did that race end?
I won.
victorious.
Victorious.
So, how much money was in that race? There's a big prize purse.
Big 0.
Oh
Yeah.
no! Wah.
I know. I actually thought that there was going to be a prize purse, but there was not. So no.
They have any of those podium girls that kiss you on the cheek?
No, but it was raining, so I wouldn't have been able to feel the kisses anyway. It was very cold. So, yeah. We did have, who we will talk about a little bit later, our boy Derek was there. Mm-hmm. Set his PR at that race, which he has been racing since he was just a wee lad. So it was awesome to see him really pull through and show some potential.
No surprise that he is PRing at this point.
He is going to be clipping at my heels and making me feel very old very soon.
He is turning into an athlete, which is good. It's just he just needed that one extra step within the training program just to kind of get that feel for like what it takes to train hard and get
Absolutely.
there. So
he was one of the fastest swimmers. I think he had the fourth fastest split. Yeah.
He's just overdue. So
Yeah.
it's
Good stuff. Well, congratulations, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Job well done.
Yes. Today, he has earned a Total Domination IPA from Ninkasi Brewing Company. And that is what the three of us are drinking tonight.
It's really the only reason that we race, right?
Yes.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
For the beers.
Putting some calories in the bank for some beer.
Exactly.
Correct. Hey, Matt, tell me a little bit about what you had going on this past week. You had a kind of a neat little trip with your son.
Sure. Yeah. So spring break, I mentioned earlier for the kiddos and out of school. And my oldest kid is 7. I have 3 boys, 7, 5, and 3. Will be 3 next week. So my wife flew the 2 younger ones down to Sacramento to visit my sister-in-law, her sister, and I threw the bike in the car and drove down with my oldest kiddo, and we just did cool stuff, right? I was hoping that we'd stop in the redwoods, go for a run in the redwoods, and didn't happen. But we stopped in Mount Shasta area and saw some waterfalls. And then we just tried to do cool stuff along the way as much as possible. Take our time, get down there. And I did bring the bike, so I got a couple bike rides in Northern California. Good. Saw the sun briefly. And,
so for somebody who's new to this region, kind of describe that drive to me.
It's, the way I did it was just straight down the 5. So if you're going to do it, there's really cool different ways to go, right? You can go down the 101. It's just along the coast, just ridiculous scenery. Redwood National Forest, the big trees, right? Cool stuff that you can see. If you go down the 5, which is the way that we did it, it's an easier drive, of course, but there's still cool stuff to see. We took a very small detour, maybe 30 minutes, and drove to see 3 different sets of waterfalls. The waterfalls were called McLeod Falls, and it was just 3 different sets of waterfalls, just amazing, in a trail that's 3 or 4 miles
That's
long.
the video you have up on YouTube, right?
Yeah,
the McLeod's Fall.
I posted I posted a YouTube video of my youngest son kind of talking about the waterfalls and then showing some of the waterfalls and stuff like that. So so that's up there, and then some other biking stuff. But I did a bike ride in Northern California with my father-in-law and my brother-in-law. So it was pretty cool to have like family bike trip, you know. There's just some cool places to bike. This small town called like Winters, California. I'm sure some of our listeners will probably be like, oh yeah, of course you go biking in Winters. Like that's what you do. And it's just cool. Like we biked over there, sat down, had a coffee. It was awesome. So, you know, it was a lot of driving for a short amount of time in California, but it was a good trip. So
Awesome.
You got a chance to ride with your father-in-law. This is one of those cool testaments to cycling. Right. Why I always beat the cycling drum. Tell us about your father-in-law real quick before we move on.
Yeah, he's just like he's one of those guys that you can kind of do anything. You know, he's 70 and
wow.
Yeah, right. And so like
out hammering on his bicycle,
so
70 years old.
We were probably going 17, 18 miles an hour. You know, like decent wind and stuff like that. And yeah, he just he'll say yes to whatever. I think he's kind of just one of those natural athletes, like his daughter, and he's kind of up for anything.
Does he put out better 5-second power than you?
Oh yeah,
I would put money on that.
Right. Yeah.
Can we add him to the drag race next time?
Yeah.
I think we need to add somebody to our sprint off.
Yeah, we can put him on the team for sure.
Is Jake going to be our lead out for this? I know we've talked about this.
Happy to oblige.
I think Jake has to be the lead out.
That would work.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. Anything else this past weekend, guys?
I don't know. Did you have any events? Were any events of yours canceled?
Graveling.
Yeah, it was kind of a bummer weekend. We had a nasty little storm blow through here, and the local race promoter decided that it was in everyone's best interest to cancel the race. I mean, when you've got groups exceeding 50 plus riders, and you've got 20 to 30 mile an hour sustained with gusts of 40 to 50, that can get kind of nasty and kind of sketchy too, especially with the 4.5s.
the triathletes were still out there. That is rare, a triathlon. I mean, Corvallis, we definitely weren't having the weather you guys were, but there was 34, 40 mile an hour gusts, definitely.
Yeah, and I think they just had to play the safe card. Not for nothing, but they didn't cancel the event. They rescheduled it to a weekend in May, and odds are we're going to have much better weather, so I'm fine with that. It was nice to be able to sleep on Saturday morning instead.
So I saw the cancellation, and I wasn't sure like the reasoning behind it, so weather related.
It was all weather related.
Okay.
So it was just not canceled. They said don't use the nasty C word. It was more of the rescheduled variety, and I think we have that coming up in the middle of May, if I'm not mistaken. And then on Sunday, had a little chance for some bike riding out in the Dalles, and that was a lot of fun. It was called the Gorge Gravel Grinder, and if you've never been through the Columbia River Gorge, it's something else. It's one of the most spectacular places on this planet Earth we live on. And we were out in the Dalles, and we did some gravel grinding. So that was I did the medium route because I was supposed to be doing a bicycle race the day before, and I figured I'd ride with some friends. That ended up being 75 miles and about 6,000 feet of elevation gain on a cyclocross bike with some nasty freaking headwinds. It was something else. I mean, we pretty much had consistent headwinds that were 20 to 25 to 30 miles an hour for a better part of the course. There was just a small section, and it's like one of those things. I don't know what it is. You think, all right, well, if I'm going to ride out into this nasty headwind, when I come back, I'm supposed to have a tailwind, right? No.
It doesn't work like that.
It's like, all right, well, let's just change the winds just a little bit so you get to, basically hammering into it on the way back. I mean, there was probably a section about 8 or 9 miles that we had some nice tailwind. You're just kind of cruising along 30 miles an hour, not putting down too much work. Come around, and all of a sudden it just slaps you upside the head, and you're like, no joke, putting up close to 500 watts, going straight into this headwind, averaging 9 to 10 miles an hour. Oh. It was brutal. People were just dying out there. People were cramping up, and it was so sad because that was the worst part of it was the last 15 miles. It was just like, I want this race to be done. I want this to be over with, and I'm riding into this headwind. And it was a race too. I mean, it was a timed, chip-timed race that people were out there competing for prizes and whatnot. And I didn't really go out there with the idea of racing. I was more out there to ride with friends and treat it more as like a training ride and kind of be a supportive. But people were out there racing. I'm like, man, I feel so bad for you. Yeah, especially the ones that did the 100-mile variety. That was just nuts.
So was this in the Hood River area or?
Yeah, just east of Hood River, the town of Hood River is,
Oregon.
you're going to go out to the Dalles, and that's where it was based out of. Everybody was kind of staying in Hood River. There's some nice little hotels there and some cool, it's just a really neat little town. You can get out, walk around, and I think they had like 4 bike shops there. It's just a tiny little town. They have 4 bike shops. I'm like, how do these guys do it? But that's just a test.
Biking?
Yeah, it's a lot of mountain biking, a little bit of road biking, but it's just a testament to how great of an area that is for riding.
So let me ask you this: if you were to, have a friend come into town or something like that, is this a place you would go back and go out for a ride, or
absolutely
it's worth the drive
So
over?
where we're at, we get a little bit socked in, and there's times of the year where you're here and you're just like, I am so done with the gray. I'm tired with the drizzle and the rain and all that other stuff. I need a reprieve from this. Hop in the car, drive about an hour and 20 minutes, and you're in the Dalles, and you get past Hood River, just past Hood River, like the topography changes a little bit. You see less forest. You see it's kind of not a desert look, but it's
like high desert,
like high desert kind of stuff, like Central Oregon. And the same time, as soon as the chaparral changes, the wind kicks up a little bit, and all the clouds disappear, and you get some sunshine. So the trade off for the sunshine is you definitely get some wind, because that's the open corridor from, was it like the Cascades and what is it, would be south, like you got all the Sierras and all that other stuff, like the mountain ranges. So that's like the natural area for the pressure systems to move through, so it picks up the wind, and for whatever reason you just see a lot of blue skies out there. And it's kind of neat too, because there's, every time I go out there, no joke, you see a rainbow. It's just the coolest thing, because the you got a little bit of the rain, it's just like right there, you can kind of see it, but it doesn't come touch you, and then you get the sun come through.
I think Hood River is like one of the areas that's big for like kite surfing.
Yep.
And the reason is because you have all this wind, right?
Yep. And they were out there when we were out there. So
were they?
The day before, we went out and just did a little shakedown ride, and there's some kite surfers out there. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. So
yeah, that is so cool to watch. I was hiking Dog Mountain today, and from the top you could see a bunch of kites, or what is it, kite surfing? Is that the correct term?
Yeah. Well, there's kite surfing and there's windsurfing, and I think
windsurfing.
Yeah,
okay. Yeah.
Well, I think they're different. So yeah.
Yeah. So it was all in all, it was a great weekend. It was really tough. We'll talk about this a little bit later on, but when somebody hands you a timed chip or chip timing thing, and you have to strap it on and wear it for the event, and you're a competitive guy, and you're going out there with the notion that you're not racing this, and they put that chip on you, and you're like, oh crap, I feel like I need to race this. So,
right.
But I mind my P's and Q's, so it was good. So, but yeah, so that was my weekend. It was
nice.
good stuff. Yeah. So it's good to be back here and have the kids back in school now, and we're back to our normal grind, and we can get back to our normal routines, which would be kind of good. So speaking of, it's kind of good to get back into a normal training routine, and we have a lot of local athletes too who are following their training routine, and there's one in particular we kind of alluded to earlier. Have you been coaching, Derek?
I would say it's a partnership. There is I draw up his workouts each week, and we kind of go from there with him.
It's kind of like a mentorship almost.
Yeah, he has a lot of creative autonomy with his training, which I kind of see a lot of myself when I was younger in him.
Gotcha.
Where he's kind of headstrong in a good way. He's trained himself and kind of built a really good engine, and he wants to continue to train himself because he does know what's good for his training.
Yeah. So,
but he's definitely asked for my help with biking and running. He's kind of got the swimming under his own control.
Gotcha. And Derek is he's part of the Dialed Triathlon crew. He's part of the Dialed cycling team as well. He's a strong kid. How old is Derek again?
20. Oh, if I mess this up, 23.
That's a great guess.
Yeah.
I'm gonna. Oh, Derek shouldn't be so mad if I got there on 23. I'm going with 23.
I think that sounds about right.
Maybe 24. He's close.
And he was out there at the.
Oh, he just turned 24 actually. His birthday was a couple weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, happy birthday, Derek. He was out there at the Beaver Freezer.
Yes. What an intimidating name.
How did he do at the Beaver Freezer?
He was great. He came in 5th, I believe, once the timing company was rough.
So do you know
man.
what happened? Like these guys race, and I wanted to find out how they did. So you go check the internet, and it's you go look for the results, right? You don't want to call these guys and ask them how they did. No, you want to go find out for yourself.
Don't believe me.
Yeah, no, I'm not going to believe you anyway. So I go and I pull the results, and it just says there are no results for 2018.
They sent us a detailed email apologizing for. Now, it is not the Beaver Freezer group. It's not the Oregon State Triathlon Club. I want to make that clear. It has nothing to do with how they operated. It was the timing company RaceWire was really bad, just to be honest. I'll speak freely about it. They were not good. And I used to work for a timing company called Speedy Feet back in Ohio, a big Southern Ohio race company that was owned by one of my best friends, Jeff Kudron, who was one of the hardest working people I'll ever meet. We would get to races 4 a.m. to set up. I'd get there at 5 a.m. because I'm lazy, but he would work. If anybody had a messed up time, he would go back into the pictures and calculate out their splits. I mean, we did 5Ks, triathlons, bike races. He was just a stalwart in that community. And so I have a lot of respect for good timing companies. And what I saw over the weekend was a bad timing company.
So what kind of stuff did you see?
So for instance, at the beginning of the race, they made an announcement that if you had crossed a timing pad, you needed to go up to the finish line to tell them that they needed to reset your time, which is fine. I've been there before where you kind of have to control people crossing the mats once they become live, especially a race that has a lot of waves. So anybody who's interested in how the timing goes on in these things, because there's a lot of work that goes into it. So for future reference, if you, especially at bike races or triathlons, if you get a chance to thank the timing company, if they're a good one, make sure you do, because those are guys who get there very early and work very hard. But so myself being very dumb, I had accidentally crossed one of the mats and realized, I need to go up to the finish line. So I went up to the finish line, talked to the race organizer, who said, go ahead and go talk to the tent right over there where they're doing the timing. So I was like, okay, cool. So I go over there, and there's this poor woman who does not speak English there, which was interesting to me, that she was the only person at the timing tent after they told a bunch of people to go up there, and she doesn't speak English. And we had no idea where anybody else was because she couldn't tell us.
Oh, man.
So me, Derek, and 30 other people who had done the same thing kind of sat there and were like, all right, well, we'll just tell them after the race. Now, me knowing how race companies know, I know that that's easy. All you have to do is you reset from a certain wave, and then you basically take the start time, you plug in the start time for those bib numbers, and then you get their finish times. So that's the only adjustment you have to make. Those adjustments were not made at the end. So the race organizer had to, luckily he was keeping track of the race and knew who was first through 10th, basically.
This is Blair, right? So
yeah, Blair and the guy who was working with him too, the Best in the West crew.
Yeah. The race organization company is called Best of the West, and it's a pretty young group that is in charge of that. They're fantastic.
Super
They're
nice
great,
guys.
Really great people, yeah.
And they did great with the situation that they were handed there.
Yeah.
They did a really good job of adjusting that, because I've been there before, and I know that when those guys start crossing, it's hard to keep track of where the fast guys are, because they're coming across with the slower guys there too. So it's a tough thing to keep track of, and they did a great job of keeping track of that. So yeah, we'll see how this next week goes and see if they can figure it out. And if not, it's nothing against Oregon State Tri Club and Blair's group, but they probably need to look into a different timing company next year.
So as a timing company, once you've lost track of results, they're just gone.
It's a nightmare.
They're
it's
gone,
a nightmare.
right? I mean, I don't know if they even have like photos to go back and double check, right?
So they do, but since it's a triathlon, they would just be getting finishing times. So if this was Jeff, I'll say if this was Jeff Kudron and this was Speedy Feet, he would stay up all night and go through the pictures and get everybody's times.
Right.
I don't see a lot of other people doing that. That takes a massive amount of commitment. So, yeah, we'll see.
Very unfortunate. So,
It is.
Back to the whole finish and Derek, and did he win his particular category?
Yes. Derek was the first 18 to 24 across the line. So he was first in his age group, and he was 5th overall, finishing behind me, two local stalwarts, Sean Hunter and another, I'm going to forget the other guy's name, but another fast guy. And then I think fourth place was a little bit unexpected, but the guy raced really well. So Derek was just under an hour.
Good.
Yeah.
You guys both know Derek pretty well too. What's something that you would say that makes Derek a special athlete? What sets him apart, and what kind of trajectory do you think he has for the future of triathlon?
Well, I think this is just a kind of a key point in his triathlon career. He's just figured out how to train, like what it takes, like and it's kind of like the pot calling kettle black, right? Like, so he's he'll be like, hey Matt, I'll be like, man, my swimming is just not getting any better, and he'll be like, hey Matt, you're swimming like you go out there and you swim 1,000 meters or 2,000 meters, like you need to step it up. And I'm looking and I'm like, yeah, you're right. And like thinking back, when I was a runner, it's like, oh, well, why were you a good runner? Well, you run 100 miles a week, you're going to get pretty good at it, right? So it's like, okay, definitely need to take some of the own medicine, of like, okay, I'm definitely not swimming enough, okay, to be a decent swimmer. But I think Derek has figured out, on the triathlon perspective, like he's figuring out the run, he's figuring out the bike. You have to put in a lot of work. His swim was already good. I mean, he was putting in 4,000 meter swims for quite a bit of time. He spent some time in Bend. He trained with some excellent athletes there. But I think he had the swim, and now I think he's figuring out the rest of it. And he's figuring out how to train. So I expect to see him do extremely well. I expect him to kind of, you asked like, okay, well, how did he do in his category? I think, for him, I think the great thing is to look beyond that. Like, okay,
definitely.
Yeah, he did fine in his category, he won his category, but like he should win his category. Like the next step is like, how's he doing overall? Like, what's the next step? Is he going to go to nationals? How's he going to do nationally? Right? Like you can just, as soon as you start to look past, age group victories or whatever that is, then I think you get a better perspective on like becoming a better athlete. Yeah. So,
and he will be at nationals this year. That is for sure.
And how about this? A little shout out to his mom, Stephanie. She had
Stephanie.
quite the triumph this week, and I know it was a battle for her, and I know that she had some issues that she had to deal with during her 70.3, if I'm not mistaken, down there at Oceanside half.
She was at Oceanside, yeah. Absolute champ.
Just real quick, Matt, can you give us a brief breakdown of what she's gone through in the past? Was it like year and a half?
Yeah. So Stephanie is just this amazing person. This is Derek's mom, Stephanie Rubalclava. She's just an avid triathlete. She's just been really, I'd say like a key person in the triathlon community, just like, whether it's through Facebook or just, being in this particular area, just drumming up a ton of support and just encouraging anyone, like any single person that's interested in the sport to come out, do stuff. She's constantly like picking races in the future. Like, this is scary, but I'm going to do this particular event, and she can somehow corral groups of people to do it with her. So she's just a fantastic person in the community. Now, I would say 2 or 3 years ago, she had a very bad bike crash.
Yep.
Where, and I don't want to, I know she hurt her back. And she's okay. She, that was the big thing is that it was a tough crash. She's back on the bike. She's doing well. I think she's had to make some adjustments.
She has, and it was a pretty traumatic thing. I mean, she had a nasty concussion and amnesia, and I had the opportunity to sit down and talk with her in great detail. And I don't want to get into specifics, but I know that she mentioned that they had to revive her. They had to bring her back to life, and she had a little bit of an out-of-body experience, which was it kind of shakes you a little bit. But to see how she persevered and how she said, you know what, I'm not going to let this get me down. I'm not going to let it stop me. I'm not going to let anything get in my way, despite the fact that I'm having, the aches and pains and bumps and bruises that going through the process of getting herself back to, fitness and back to her training. She did it. She went out and she put this on her calendar. And I remember seeing the day that she posted up, like, I've done it. I'm signing up. I'm going to do Oceanside half. She went out. She did it this past weekend.
Yeah. So she was descending Mount St. Helens. Yeah. I don't know if Derek's talked to you about this, but like and then they choppered her out, right? So
wow.
I mean, it was not.
I mean, I know just in my short time knowing her, I already know she's a fighter. But that gives a new perspective.
Yeah,
she fought through, and for anybody who saw her result at Oceanside, she had 2 flats.
Yeah,
there, which. Knowing myself, if I flat once in a triathlon, I'm going to fully admit it's over. Packing it up,
so
heading home.
Yeah,
this isn't a bike race. I'm not changing that flat.
And she was determined to finish, know. And for her, I'm gonna be like, Steph, we gotta get you some like puncture resistant tires. We gotta do something like.
She got to start riding tubular. Is she riding tubular right now?
No, I don't ride tubular.
Just ride tubular. She's got to ride tubular.
I don't know.
No,
I'm not
no,
a fan of the tubies. So
Oh, we're going to disagree on this. This will be a fun
This will
topic
be
later.
Yeah, this will be good. Yeah, I also disagree. I think that's a mistake.
I'll
Yep.
be in the minority there. Okay.
Yep, and you can stay in the minority. Yeah, I know that Stephanie did mention too that she spent, I think it was like 45 or 50 minutes sitting on the side of the road waiting for some sag support. So that really cut into her time, and that was after dealing with a couple puncture flats and just general things that they go on throughout the course of the day. So. But what's really cool is she wanted to make the cutoff. She did not want a DNF on her record. She got it done. Once she got herself back up, pumped up, and rolling again, she fought hard and she got through before they closed down the finish. So she did it, and I'm proud of her for that. And I know that she'll come back and she'll do it again, and she'll improve upon that. And Stephanie, if you're listening, we talked today, and the offer's still out there. You can come on by for that workshop on changing a flat tire in 5 minutes flat. So
5 minutes.
5 minutes flat. Then we're gonna get that down to a science. So
It's the fifth discipline of triathlon, changing a flat.
so
There's so many fourth and fifth.
I know,
disciplines. Yeah. That can definitely be something that we can chat about.
Oh, yeah.
Good stuff. We're going to do this again next time. We're going to talk about another local athlete, and his name is going to be Sir Ian Gibson. He is a local cyclist here I've been racing with for about 3 years now, and man, oh man, the boy's killing it. He is he's a whole different beast on the bike. So I'm really looking forward to talking about Ian next go around. So, but anything else to say about Derek? Any last?
There's a just keep track of his results this year. He's coming on strong, and he's got a pretty big training block coming up right now. So we'll see how he does with it.
It'd be fun to have him come on the podcast too, because he's
that's a
fun
great idea.
and he's
Yeah.
enjoyable.
Yeah.
He's a funny young guy, and like we're boring and old. So
Yeah.
I feel like he would bring some like liveliness. Yeah.
And he's up in Bellingham.
Bellingham right now.
So
Yeah, he's finishing up. He's studying to become an electrician, so he's going into his last year of that after this year.
Excellent. And I think he comes back summertime, so we'll
Yep.
have to have him in
Yep.
for sure. That'd be a lot of fun. All right. Moving forward, we've got another topic that we wanted to cover today. It's something that all of us who've raced, I'd say just about all of us, can want to be missing the mark here, because maybe there's some of you freaks out there that don't deal with this, but pre-race anxiety and stress. That is something that has probably, for you guys as well, it's probably haunted you at some point in time. It's something that I've dealt with, and it absolutely sucks because I'm super competitive and I don't want to let myself down. I don't want to let my teammates down. I don't want to let my family down and anybody is paying attention. And it's probably a bunch of undue stress that I place on myself that I don't need to. But tell me a little bit about your dealings with anxiety and pre-race stress.
Sure.
Matt, why don't you kick it off here for us?
Absolutely. So I've been racing probably since I was, 12 or something, right? Like just a lot of running races. And running has the tendency to turn your stomach like upside down to begin with, right? So you add pre-race anxiety to that. And I was just a victim, right? Like you just
GI issues that we could talk about
well,
in detail.
sure. I mean, like, so in high school, we would have like secret bathrooms. Like, you go to this race, you go to this secret bathroom, you go to this other race, like, and you go to the bathroom like 20 times, right? Like before the race or whatever, because your stomach's just doing flips. But and then later on, we would make more and more jokes about like, oh man, you do all these workouts and you're ready to have this big race, right? And it's just like you can assess the race that you should have based upon the workouts that you're doing. Like, ideally, I remember my coach used to say like, oh, when I was doing these same workouts, I was running like 4:10 in the mile. Like, what's your problem? I could hit the workouts, right? And we would call those guys like workout warriors, right? They can just crush these workouts, but they can't race. And a lot of that for me personally, I think was pre-race anxiety. And it just took a long time to just figure it out. And I think that now that I coach high school athletes, for me it's like that's one of my worries with them is hey, I see that you're amped up and that's good, but we want to kind of like figure out this happy medium where we're not over anxious and basically absolutely crushing our chance to have a decent race by blowing through every bit of energy that you have, or just getting so nervous that you just don't perform as you should. So two sides of the coin, right? Like, definitely had this. Definitely, I feel like I overcame it, and I don't necessarily have a great, like, here's how to overcome it. But for me, it was just like, hey, try to relax, because I know for me that I'm way overstimulated prior to races. And that still today, right? Like, even if I go race anything, whether that's an, Ironman, obviously you're like way amped up. But, even like the small races, like local races, it's just, I have to tell myself, like, no big deal, get into the race, like this race is an hour or whatever it is. There's plenty of time to kind of work yourself into the race. So that's some of the stuff that's helped me, just kind of constantly reminding myself, if you want to kind of get amped up, you can do that towards the end of the race. You've got time. So for my athletes, it's a little worrisome because you don't want them, half asleep at the starting line. Because there's benefits to having some anxiety and having some, they'll call this like the arousal curve, which is probably a bad name for it. That's not the way. But anyway,
we get it. Don't worry.
Right. So, you don't want to be completely asleep, but you don't want to be overly aroused either. Again, a horrible name, but the bell curve, and you want to be right smack dab in the middle where, you need to figure out where that is for you. And for me, I get overstimulated and I need to bring myself back. And so that's what I'm sensitive to with my racers. I'm usually out there saying, relax. And then it's like getting towards the end of the race. Okay, now go, right? Like, that's what you'll hear me say to athletes all the time. Like, hey, relax, breathe, relax. Okay, now, right? So
Matt, in today's day and age, so when you were growing up with running, social media was non-existent.
Didn't exist, yeah.
So do you notice that the presence of social media has increased pre-race anxiety, especially in track and cross-country kids, where they can constantly be checking, what is this kid across the state doing right now? What is his training looking like? Throughout the week, I feel like that can build some stress. Something like Strava too, Jake, we can talk about it. You can look at
big time
guys you're racing, all of a sudden you look at there and you're like, that guy just put out a 300-mile week. Yep. Like, he's going to be ready to go. That was not a thing 20 years ago. You had no idea what people were doing in training.
Nope. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So for me, it wasn't always stress due to someone else being in the race or whatever. Like, it was just additional stress that I was putting on myself prior to a race. However, I do think, and there's another piece to it where it's like, at a certain point, you get towards the front of a field, you'll get to recognize people. So-and-so, whether, previous to social media, you just knew so-and-so. You've raced them before, or, like they're one of the national guys or whatever, this person's good, and that's going to stress you out a little bit. I think now the social media side of things, in my humble opinion, I think it's been extremely good for the sport, because you'll see, hey, this person, you said like 300, this person put a 300-mile weekend, blah, 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 blah. I think that's good for the sport, whether that's running or cycling or whatever. It raises expectations. It raises I'd say expectations for training, right? Where it's like, if someone's telling you, hey, great job doing that 20-mile week that you did, you're going to crush it this weekend. Maybe you should step it up. Like, there might be someone else that you see and you say, okay, I'm getting this information over here, but the consensus online is that, training, there's some more training that could be done. So
going into the actual like pre-race,
sure.
Let's look at the timeline there. Where is it worst for you? Is it right before the race? Is it the morning of the race? Is it the day before the race, or is it the whole week before the race? What for you? What's the worst part?
So once the gun goes off, I'm good.
Yeah, I would agree with that too.
Yeah,
oh, yes.
And I think and this is pretty standard stuff, right? But right prior to that is when the nerves are at their highest. Yeah. So for me, it's like I'm the typical 1 hour prior to the race. Your stomach starts. It should be either completely cleared by that point, or like you're going towards the bathroom to get everything. So there's a lot of like stomach issues for sure. And then once the gun goes off, everything's good to go, and you settle into your race.
Yep.
So
yep, for sure. How about you, Evan?
For myself, I think I'll keep mine short, because to be honest, I consider myself very lucky to be somebody who really I don't go through a lot of pre-race anxiety. Anybody who's been around me on a race day knows, outside of maybe early in my triathlon career where I was probably a stress ball for people I was dating at that time. I apologize, but especially last 4 or 5 years, I'm goofy on race day. I try to just relax. I try to talk about anything but triathlon. For me, especially as my training loads and intensity increased, the race is either, for me, decided prior to the race. And that's what I convince myself. So when I'm lining up, I always like to think if I'm in a certain level of fitness, I know that if I'm hurting, the guy next to me is hurting just as bad. So I try to convince myself of that prior to the race. So
some of the coping mechanisms that you use is kind of like this either change of topic or like joking and things like that. And I think that these tools are fantastic for, people that are new to racing to start to like figure out their own personal set of tools. And it may not be like joking around because, maybe we use something like that or whatever, but like it might not be your set of tools that you use, but finding something to help you kind of like either take your mind off the situation or whatever it is. For some people, it's just like being super organized and having things packed a certain way. It's
getting
like
super early to a race too. For me, I get there very early because that hour before that you're talking about, I don't want to be even thinking about anything outside of just hanging out and getting ready. So
there's never any sense placing any undue stress on yourself. And
exactly.
That's a good point. So I think there's something to be said too for like just the sense of familiarity. So if you've done the race before, that definitely takes a big edge off. But if you haven't, there are some coping mechanisms I think that you can get into. And a few of them are, having a mentor or a coach that can walk you through that process and kind of telling you what to expect. And especially somebody, if they know your fitness levels and they know the course and they know what the race is all about, they can give you some clear, honest expectations of how it's going to fold out for you. You can, obviously get on there and do your Strava stalking and see what people are putting out there, what kind of training weeks they've had, and looking at their training blocks and seeing how they've done in the past. You can go look at race results from years prior to see how they finished. That's going to give you an idea, but that almost kind of makes it worse. But having a coach there to walk you through it, to talk you through it, and to let you know, like, hey, this is how a race typically unfolds. Here's where your fitness lines up with that, and this is what you can pretty much expect. And you might have an off day or you might have a great day, but this is about where you're going to finish. And then it becomes your challenge to make sure that you try and best that. So,
and there's definitely different strategies. Myself being somebody who's, had seasons of bike racing, seasons of triathlon, seasons of running racing. Triathlons to me, ironically, were the least stressful.
Yeah, I get that.
Because that race is 100% under your control. Outside of mechanical on the bike.
Yep.
That's
time trial,
that. And I know people talk about open water stuff, but if you've been putting in the training in open water, your comfort level there.
Yep.
Bike racing to me was very stressful because it's such a dynamic race and there's so much going on that you can be going in there, you can be the guy with the highest FTP in that race and not win the race. So that's
seen it.
Yep. Jake's been that guy in a race, I'm sure, but
you get targeted and they'll take advantage of that. And I've been in a race with a guy that had the craziest FTP. I watched this guy in a race go solo off the front for 60 miles and held for 60 miles, mind you, I think it was 355 watts by himself, and he rode away for the entire field.
Gosh.
And we never saw him again. But then I saw that same guy come to another race. I think it was a year later, if I'm not mistaken, and he was targeted, and they played him to a T. And it frustrated the hell out of him. But at the end of the day, he got marked, and they played him just right, and he can FTP it all day long, but he didn't have the biggest sprint. And, the team that supported the right guy took him down at the sprint finish. And that was the end of that. So
you see it at the top level, Peter Sagan doesn't win every race he goes into, Eddie Merckx didn't win every race that he went into. So, yeah.
But just making sure that you have people to talk to. And that's another thing that I really preach with team as well, because you've got people who have been there, done that can, again, mentor you through the process, and they can help take the edge off, talk you off that cliff of, hey, I just can't come down. And it can be tough. And if it affects you so much, it can have an adverse effect on your race big time. I've been there. I've had races where I've put so much pressure on myself, not consciously doing it, but I wanted to do so well for myself and for my team. And, people have expectations of you that, it's like the night before and you're tossing and turning and tossing and turning and tossing and turning. It's like 2:00 in the morning. I'm like, I've got to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning. I've got 3 hours of sleep, and I've got to go do a 60-mile race on the bubble tomorrow and perform. How am I going to do that? You finally fall asleep, and your alarm clock's supposed to go off at 5 o'clock, and then all of a sudden you're bright-eyed, bushy-tailed at 4 o'clock in the morning because your body's like, let's go race bicycles. And by the way, let's be stressed while we're thinking about this whole process of getting down there. It really sucks, and it really will do a number on you. And
So Jake, what would you say for you? Is it the day of? The night before is where you're most stressed, or would you say it's that entire kind of lead up week? And I know obviously with bike racing, you're racing almost every week through the season, so it's it's not the same week prior.
It's getting better, and I'm learning to deal with it more as time goes on. And I guess I mature a little bit more, but my wife will attest to this as well. But it's pretty much the day before and the night of, and I've come up with a routine that works pretty well for me. And people even sometimes like shake their head and like, really, you eat that for dinner the night before a race?
Yeah.
But
I have not heard this.
Okay, so just for the listeners, what do you eat the night before?
I think, Matt, you caught me red-handed. What was it the night before?
Okay, so I was on a date night with my wife, and we pulled up to park, and we were going to go into this restaurant, not the sushi restaurant, but we looked through the window, and I saw Jake and his family at this sushi restaurant. Oh, let's go in there and say hi,
Sushi
the night before a race. I know it's stupid. I know it's like.
What's your go-to like roll? I mean, do you have like a specific sushi you'll go for, or
Yeah, it's tuna and salmon are pretty much the main.
It's just the worst idea ever.
that is incredible.
I am on a mission to convince you that this is a bad idea.
It's just something about the salt and the soy sauce and mixed with that wasabi, and then you get some good protein in there.
How about wasabi?
I believe. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, like I know sushi has
the rice.
this,
yeah.
So okay, well we'll go around the table here. I'll say mine real quick. Okay. I don't do it anymore, but for about 4 or 5 years at big races, I would always do a black bean burger and a piece of carrot cake. The piece of carrot cake was funny. I actually have a T-shirt that says "Power of the Carrot Cake" on it. I had a group of friends. We were all triathletes, and for whatever reason, somebody ate a piece of carrot cake before a race once.
Had a good race.
Had a great race.
Yeah.
And everybody, an entire team of people in Southern Ohio now have carrot cake before races.
That's awesome. How about you, Matt?
I feel like I used to try, this is a long time ago, that we would, eat big pasta dishes and things like that to carbo load for your 5K race that you
makes no sense.
Yeah, no, it doesn't make any sense. But, so you have that tradition, and now I just feel like I don't get wrapped up in it as much. I do other things like, for big races, I'll drink beet juice and stuff like that, like the week prior to it, which I actually kind of have
hydration is crucial for a week out.
Yeah. So, and I'll do that. But my wife will be like, oh, this is an Ironman race. Like, you've been training for this race for about a year. Like, what do you want the night before for dinner? Which is awesome that she even asks, right? And I'm just like, whatever, and I'll tell her, like, nothing crazy. Not sushi.
Hey, you know what? That has been going on for, I want to say, about 10 years now.
Okay.
And I am I'm batting 1,000 with that.
It seems to be working pretty well for you.
It is what it is. Folks, don't try that at home, though.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's definitely a funny thing. But yeah, again, routine. I mean, the night before a race, the day of a race, having a routine, a checklist has been something that I've come back to rely on. I've got a neat little app on my phone that I use, and I keep a checklist of all of the things that I could ever possibly need to take to a race that I would need to be, successful and have what I need there. I know it sounds stupid, and you're like, dude, you just need your bike, a helmet, and some shoes.
No,
it's a lot more in depth than that.
Coming from running, where you literally just need a pair of shoes, like you would be like, okay, you need your race singlet or whatever, and shoes, and then like switching to triathlon.
Oh, triathlon's a
where
nightmare.
you're like, holy moly, like I hate this sport. I hate this sport just because you have 3 pages of checklists. Like, do I have my nip guards? Like, do I have my
crucial?
Oh, I forgot to put body glide here. Like, guess I can't walk next week.
More crucial.
Like there's just so many stupid little things that, what about like the little ankle bracelet? If you use the one that the race comes with, you'll actually have like a cut through your ankle. I don't know. It's like
I always use just the race bracelets.
Yeah.
And I mean,
No, it doesn't hurt you.
it does. I just deal with it
Let me pull your sock down for a second.
It's actually okay this time.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good.
Not bad.
Yeah.
I've had like, a huge gash through my ankle,
Yeah.
like just wears.
No, my shaving before the race already does that, so I probably cut that ankle so many times that just hardened over time.
And just making sure that you get all of the minutia done, like days leading up. Make sure that you're not like waiting till the night before to do the basic maintenance stuff on your bike to make sure that that's ready. Make sure that's done in advance. Make sure that all of your crap's charged up, and just kind of coming into the week easy and having that checklist and having a routine. Pin the damn number on your jersey the night before too. That's such a pain in the butt the day of. That is my number one thing that I hate about bike racing. I hate pinning the damn number on my jersey. It's the worst.
Jake, thanks for pinning that number on me in the last race, right before the race, actually.
Yeah.
Jack Frost.
There's an art form to that. We could have an entire little bit on. I mean, you can't be too tight, can't be too loose. You're losing all that aero benefit from that skin suit you just bought.
Yeah.
And that's
it's a pain in the butt. So get that done the night before, and just finding like a routine that works well for you. And I'll even make myself get up super early, like days leading up to that, just so it makes me go to bed earlier, so that I am tired going to that race, and so I am acclimated. And it's just the little things like that. Get to know yourself and stop, and it's going to happen to you. Make a list of all the things that bugged you, that were kind of like getting out of you, and that you knew were a problem. Make a list and figure out a comprehensive way and an effective way to go about solving those problems for yourself, because we're all going to be a little bit different. We're all going to have the little things that set us off or trigger us, and talk with people, rely on your teammates, and just do what you got to do to iron it out, because you can. It's feasible.
Yeah, and talking week prior leading up, along with the mental preparation that goes into that. Nutritionally, I know I don't do this nearly as strictly as I used to, but historically, just like Matt had mentioned, there's the carb load the night before races for a 5K. We used to do that for soccer too, which I find that hilarious for soccer. But there's definitely some interesting opinions out there, research. I'm sure a nutritionist will comment on here and say that I disagree with what you're saying right now, but there's for years I did carb depletes the week before races. So the theory behind this, I'll explain really quick. The physiology behind that is basically what you do is you are the week before a race depleting your glycogen stores, and your body responds by upregulating glycogen stores and creates more. So then what you do is the 2 to 3 days before the race, you actually start slowly increasing your complex carb intake. You will naturally be at your race weight by that point without having to, dehydrate yourself or sit in a sauna or something, the night before a race. But it gets your body more primed than I think just a simple carb load does.
So some of the tour guides, so I don't know if this is like probably, I'm guessing at least 5 or 10 years ago, like they used to talk about like how some of the tour guides would do this. They would basically purposely have like a spot, a day prior to the day that they want to have a big performance, and they would let themselves go all the way down to, the classic, like we call it like a bonk, right? So they would purposely bonk, completely deplete their glycogen storage on a bike, have kind of a rough day, be mid-pack or whatever it is, and then, hit, they would load up and have like their big performance the next day, whether it was like a mountain stage or whatever it is. But like, I know this was probably back in like that Lance Armstrong time frame or whatever, but we should go back and kind of like double check some of the nutrition stuff that they used to do. I'm wondering if they still do it.
So you're completely right there. Okay. And I've read quite a bit on Jan Ulrich, who for anybody who's our cycling history buffs here, was the German Kaiser. Yeah. I'm going to say non-doping. He was the winner of the 98 Tour the year before Lance won. So Jan was classically known for, and if you know Jan now, he's put on quite a bit of weight since his career, but he was your classic, deplete and gorge sort of athlete. This is the not healthy side of that era. Yeah. So he had an obsession with chocolate, and he was known for microwaving bits of Nutella, and he would drink them. That's how much this man loved chocolate.
Wow.
Yeah. So, but he was so before the tour, he would always be. His coach would say he was probably usually 10 to 20 pounds overweight, what he wanted to be at. And everybody who comes from the cycling world knows, this is a touchy subject, but this is just showing the bad side of this. He would go on the week before the tour, ridiculously long rides, and he would get back from these rides, eat celery, and take sleeping pills and pass out so that he could get down to race weight. What he was indirectly doing was depleting his glycogen stores. He was doing a lot of damage otherwise, but that's what you were going off of, Matt. And he would eat quite a bit the night before the initial prologue.
Crazy times.
No thanks.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll touch a little bit more on this topic. I think there's a lot of stuff that we can dive into, but we'd be kind of curious to hear from some other folks out there. Some of you, if you're listening, if you have pre-race anxiety, tell us a little bit about it. Send us an email, info@dialedcycling.com. We'd like to hear all of the stories, and we'll dive into them, and we'll see if we can come up with some solutions for you. So that'd be good stuff. Kind of jumping on to the next and I think final subject for the podcast today is the lost art of the fun bicycle ride with no agenda. Why do you think you guys? Why do you think we need these in our lives, guys? I'm a big advocate of these, and
no numbers.
And it seems like in this day and age, with the circles we run in, everybody's chasing this, this FTP. I got to increase my FTP. I got to increase my fitness. You hear all these little buzzwords and key terms of, I'm doing my interval training today. I'm doing my threshold works. I'm doing my sweet spots.
Zone 1.
Zone 1.
2. Zone 5.
Whatever happened to getting on a bicycle and just going for a ride?
Here's a quick story from Nikki Terpstra, the Quick Step
Okay,
rider.
yeah.
This was either after Flanders or the most recent Roubaix race. He was asked, somebody was asking him some average power number, and he kind of, over a certain section, and he kind of chuckled to himself, and he pulled up a result sheet that, obviously had him at the top, and he said, "This is my power meter," and then he put it away, and that was his only answer to the question. He said he did not ride power there for a section. So
Yeah.
if the top of the sport can do that, I believe that we can definitely look at ourselves and be like, well, if we're watching these numbers every single day, but the guys at the top of the sport can turn off the power meter, like why can't we, for our own health? I have a run once a week. I always make sure it's no watch run.
Yeah.
I just run my normal route and I don't run with a watch.
Yeah, that's a damn good idea. And I really, I've worked with athletes in the past, coached them. And it's one of the things that I try and emphasize, that at least once every 2 weeks, if not once a week, we need to disconnect, and you need to go out. Don't go crazy. Don't come back to me and say, dude, I went on this 5-hour epic, mountain bike ride and did 10,000 feet. Don't do that. But, disconnect. I don't care if you're still running your Garmin or your Wahoo or whatever it is that you're using to capture your data, but disconnect. Don't go out there and ride with an agenda. Just listen to your body, ride smart, but go out there and have some fun. Stop and take a look around. It's amazing. A lot of times, the places that we get to ride, especially here in the Pacific Northwest where we live, stop and take a look, take a few pictures and enjoy the scenery. Get to know it a little bit better. Go out there with some friends and have some, fun riding your bike, and just, enjoy.
Yeah. I saw this topic on the list and I was pretty excited about it just because, I grew up with barely wearing a watch, right? We didn't have GPS watches or whatever it was, and so, yeah, you just go out and run. And if you like running, you go run. If you like biking, go bike. And when you listed this topic, I always think of some sort of comic or something that I saw either on a website or I don't know. One of the listeners will correct me, but and it was this guy, and he's like, yeah, I went out for a bike ride and I forgot my Garmin computer, my GPS, and my heart rate monitor. And it turns out I don't really like biking. That was so funny. And I was like, yeah, we get so wrapped up with posting data to Strava or whatever, whatever it is, proving that you're exercising, I guess, it's it is fun. One of the things that I want to start doing more of is just bring a, camera and just go bike and just stop and take photos and just, whatever, have no agenda, whether it's just go bike somewhere and try to see something cool.
Yeah. Don't get us wrong. Having an agenda and training smart with a plan and a purpose makes all the sense in the world. If you want to get faster, if you want to go out and race, you want to be competitive, you got to do that. But you've got to remember, unplug. And it goes the same. It's the same thing with a lot of things. Don't live your life on Facebook. Don't live your life on Instagram. Just just be, and sometimes you have to apply that to running or biking or swimming or whatever your favorite discipline is. Go out and have some fun and remember why you do that. Don't disconnect and figure out that you hate the sport that you're doing, but enjoy what its roots are, what its purpose is, and that's to put a smile on your face and keep you happy and young and fit.
I don't think anybody fondly remembers, and this is coming from somebody who does a lot of indoor training, I don't fondly remember a single trainer ride or treadmill run, but I do fondly remember my first runs in Forest Park. Riding up in Bellingham on a beautiful day, doing open water swimming in this region. I'm planning on doing a Columbia swim this summer. Nice. Those are the things that you look forward to, not, oh God, I can't wait for that 2.5 hour, 3 by 20 minute, threshold effort. That's really going to, be something I remember in 3 years. No, you remember that epic ride that you did with your friends where
absolutely.
Somebody flatted at the top of a mountain or something like that.
Grab a different bike too. I mean, a lot of us have multiple bikes, and if you don't, ask a buddy, go grab, if you're constantly riding on the road, change it up a little bit. See if there's something else out there for you. Go jump on a mountain bike or jump on a cross bike and have even more fun. It's a beautiful thing. Grab a different bike, grab some buddies, go for a ride with your buddies and just have a good time. Pack a lunch, go somewhere and have fun with it. Sit on top of a mountain and shoot the breeze with your buds and talk about stuff. Record it and start a podcast on top of a mountain. It could be fun, man. I'm telling you. But yeah, it's a good mental break, and it's a good way to break the monotony. And it's a good way to keep that sanity in your week. And it's kind of like, I'll liken it to like a cheat day or a cheat meal where, if you spend your whole life just like counting every single calorie and trying to eat clean and pure, stop and enjoy life and have an ice cream cone. Let that event be your ice cream cone. Have fun with it.
And there's definitely just talking from a physiology point of view, there's a lot of benefits to doing something like this, whether it's a cheat meal or quote unquote a cheat ride, I guess we could call it, that will decrease your stress. And there's, endless research into cortisol's long-term effects on aerobic and, performance. I can give you a hint. It's not good. Fight or flight is a mechanism that our bodies have that's meant to be used in the short term. So if you are constantly worrying about numbers, what your competition's doing on Strava, if your FTP is increasing or not, that constant threat is a small, continual micro doses of cortisol into your system that is not helping things. So, you maybe, those 4 a.m. trainer rides are great consistently, but if you're starting to feel worn down, take that after ride work with some buddies, jump on a cruiser, grab a camera, just like Matt said, you're still getting miles in. If it's a zone 1 recovery day, why not,
Yep, absolutely. That's all good stuff. So I think we're just about done for today. Anything that you guys want to add or anything that you want to toss in before we wrap this bad boy up?
Yeah, thanks. Just thank the listeners. Thanks for coming along and joining us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got some fun stuff in the future. I'll do a little Cobbled Classics wrap up for anybody who's interested in that stuff. We came to the end of a really fun Belgian Classics year, so I know some of my cycling friends will be interested to hear some of that stuff.
Definitely want to talk about that.
There was a little race yesterday, and I think there's still a few folks out there that haven't stumbled onto the final results of.
No spoilers here.
Exactly. So we'll wait just a touch more on that. You don't want to be like me and look for something online and all of a sudden you're like, crap, thanks for spoiling that one for me. But that's my bad, I guess, for looking in the first place. Do come back though, because we have some more stuff to talk about. And like Matt said, thank you to everybody. Again, this past week, I've had probably a dozen more people that I never would have thought would even take the time to listen to what we have to say. And they did. They listened and they loved it. They came up and they expressed how much they enjoyed the podcast, and we really thank you for that. So thanks again, Evan. Always great job. Congratulations on your win. Thanks for coming back for another one. Matt.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Matt Legrand, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for the total domination brewskis that we had tonight with dinner.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure.
Had with dinner. What the hell are you talking about, Jake? Had with our podcast. Oh,
Beer
gosh.
counts as dinner these days, I guess.
Maybe I need another beer. But yep, good to have you back and great videos. Real quick, you want to tell us where we can watch those videos?
Yeah, I don't have a great answer. YouTube. I know that the waterfall video is on my kids' channel, which is Legrand Toys. They usually open up toys, and so. And then my name is Matt Legrand. You can have a look around. There's some sort of singer-performer Matt Legrand also, which if you're into that sort of thing. Yeah, so yeah, you'll be able to find me.
Okay, good stuff.
The YouTube, the interwebs.
Mr. Matt's turning into quite the little cinematographer. He's making some pretty cool stuff.
No. I mean, we're gonna try to progress slowly over the next long period.
Captain Humble over here.
Yeah.
It's a great.
We're gonna have a very fun summer.
All right, so come on back and join us next time. Thanks again for listening, and we will talk to you soon. Bye for now. Ah, crap. Hey, Evan, what did Gwen Jorgensen have for dinner last night? I totally forgot to ask you. Man, gonna have to add that to the omissions segment next go around.